Let's talk a little bit about the first bad thing I did when I was a Mormon missionary. Okay? But before I start, I need to give you a little background. Some of the things that the church believes, some of the things we taught the people we knocked on the door and we teach them these lessons. One of the first things we taught them about was the plan of salvation. And that involved where we come from, why we're here, where we're going. Imagine, if you will, before the earth is even formed, before the universe is even formed, we are all living in heaven with God, right? We are His spiritual sons and daughters.
In pre-earth life, you were with your Heavenly Father. There, as His spirit sons and daughters, you lived until you were ready to come to earth.
There was this big council in heaven where Jehovah turned out to be Jesus later on, and Lucifer turned out to be Satan later on. God asked them what they wanted to do, how they wanted to run the earth, right? Satan said, I want to make everybody do the right thing all the time, and everybody will go to heaven and be with you again. And then Jesus said, I want to give everybody free agency. They can choose whether they do right or wrong. And God said, hey, I like the free agency idea, and Satan, your idea doesn't work. So Satan got all angry and took 1/3 of the children, the spirit children living in heaven, and they all left. And they all were cast down to earth as demons, spirits that were not valiant in the pre-existence. And they were born on earth with dark skin. They were cursed with dark skin. Okay, that's the preamble. My first area when I got to the Delaware-Maryland Mission was Arlington, Virginia. My first area was right on the edge of Arlington National Cemetery. We lived in a kind of a dank old apartment, and there were a lot of old apartments. There are many apartment buildings around, and those were the people that we would go and knock on the door and try to teach, right? Oh, let me also say, we were told as missionaries, because Washington, D.C. was in our mission, and because like 75-80% of the people there were not white, we were told never to go to Washington, D.C. to teach anybody. And if we got someone to answer the door who was a black person, we were supposed to invite them to church, but not teach them lessons. Well, sounds pretty racist, right? So we were out knocking on doors one day, and somebody told us to come back later. Apparently they didn't open the door, and we didn't know what we were in for. But when we came back later and she opened the door, she was black. And even though we'd been told not to teach lessons to black people, we went in and gave her the first lesson, which covered the plan of salvation. And then when we were finished, she asked me right out, she asked us, I've heard that black people in the LDS church cannot have the priesthood, cannot go to the temple. And I told her, yes, that's true. And then I also told her, I feel very strongly that that is going to change before our lives are over. And she was satisfied with that answer. My companion was crazy. He just went nuts. When we left, he said, don't you ever say something like that again, Elder. Don't you ever do that. Because it went against what the church taught. But I was not stupid. This is 1971. And the Civil Rights Act had passed, the Voting Rights Act had passed. And I knew the writing was on the wall, and the church had to change, or else it would be an outlier, and nobody would, they were already viewed as racist. And I knew they were going to change. But anyway, my companion got very upset. I had only been out for a couple of months, maybe just a couple of weeks even. I don't remember. But it turns out I was right. In 1978, the church changed the policy, and their doctrine that would never change because it came straight from God was changed. Anyway, that was my first bad thing I did as a missionary, and it went down from there. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this story. If you do, I will have more stories. I did a lot of stuff. This was like the most mild thing, I think. The rest of them all involve breaking mission rules and stuff. But yeah, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and share and subscribe. This is just a little channel and I'm just getting started, so anything you can do to help would be appreciated. So I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.